everybody, Leilani Joy here, and welcome back to the Paint Along, the show where you can paint along with me in real time while I answer your art and not so art related questions. I am very excited to have you with me today, and I'm ready to jump in and get painting because I have a deadline fast approaching, and don't I always, because I love to sign up for things I have no time to do. But I am really excited about this piece, and I figured I'd chat with you guys while I paint and answer some questions for you. I have my setup a little bit differently today, so hopefully this is all going to work out and look okay for you guys. It's come to my realization that I'm fast becoming an old lady, and my back is very, very sore from leaning over like a hunchback over my desk all the time. So I'm going to paint in a much better, more ergonomic fashion on this lovely desktop easel I have here, which I actually love. This is made by Winsor Newton, and it's got a little tray, and it has even a little drawer so I can take it with me. I can put paints and brushes in it. And it's great, and I can sit up straighter, and I really should be painting like this all the time. The reason I don't sometimes is because it's harder for me to have my second DSLR camera and give you guys a good view of what I'm doing. So hopefully this will still look okay and you can kind of see what I'm working on, because it's a lot better and safer and healthier for me, and I'll be able to paint for many years to come if I do it this way. All right, so let's jump in. I'll show you guys what I'm working on, and I hope you guys dig it. So let's get started. And here we are, guys, the view from my easel. Hopefully you guys can see this okay and see what I'm working on. Anybody know who I'm painting today? I'm very excited about this character. So just a little backstory for those of you who don't know who I'm painting just by this sketch. I am painting a tribute piece to Mad MOXXI from Borderlands and Borderlands 2. And I'm pretty stoked about this. And so the reason I'm doing this character today is for a couple of reasons. And the first of which is, so here I'm going to show you guys, this is my sketch, and then here is my color comp that I'm going to be using as a reference today. I created this color comp in Photoshop, and I created a little palette for myself that I've been sampling from. And this is where I am in the painting. So I'm starting to get some of my colors coming together pretty nicely, and I'm excited about that. So anyways, the reason why I'm painting Mad MOXXI today is coincidentally, I am in a gallery group show at Gristle Art Gallery and Tattoo Parlor in Brooklyn, New York. And I'm really excited about it. And it's going to be featuring not only me, but my fellow Bad Apple Artist Collective artists. And they invited us to take over their gallery and do a showing there. And the theme that was chosen was the Borderlands. Now, this was not literally meant to be Borderlands the game, but since I am a gamer geek and I love Borderlands and I love gaming, that I was like, well, I want to do something from the game. So the theme is sort of supposed to be like the worlds between, so there's going to be a lot of mythical creatures and fairies, and I just did a fairy, and I was like, I just feel like doing something else. And so the second reason that I'm doing this is actually because a lovely gentleman I met at Wonderground Gallery was like, have you ever painted Mad MOXXI? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, it really like feels like one of your characters. And so I was like, oh, well, that's an interesting idea, right? So I did a little research, and I was like, wow, like weirdly enough, so this is an actual in-game image. This is a cosplay. I found some really great cosplays to help with my inspirations as well. And I just kind of, on looking up close at Mad MOXXI, I was like, it's kind of coincidental how much she reminds me of my Mad Hattress, actually. And she even kind of has the drippy eye makeup I like to do, and she's sort of steampunky with like a circus ringleader kind of look, which I love, and she's almost somewhere between, excuse me, somewhere between Alice in Wonderland and steampunk. So I'm like, this is freaking cool. Like, what a cool character to do. Anyways, that's what I'm painting today, and I hope you guys are into it. Even if you're not into the character, I hope that you guys might like this piece, just because it's kind of combines some of my favorite inspirations, like vintage circus posters and that steampunky kind of feel. So I think she's going to be cool for a lot of you guys, hopefully. Please let me know what you think. All right, so I have got 2 days left to finish this piece before I have to send a promo image to Gristle Gallery. And it's been a little nuts around the studio lately, which I'll talk more about later. So it's time to crack down on the smackdown. And hopefully you guys are working along with me. Maybe you're doing Inktober and keeping me company today. So now, as I continue here, so I'm going to have my little color comp nearby as my guide. There we go. You guys probably can't really see that, but that's okay. I'm really the only one that needs to see that. And I'm going to go ahead and starting back into the face here, which is my personal favorite area to paint. So you guys are going to get to see me work on that a bit today. Okay, how does she look there? You guys seeing that clearly? And without further ado, let's take our first question that comes from Skylar Lacey Bookworm. Do you read manga? And if you do you like manga by Clamp? Yes, I do. I'm a little bit behind these days. I used to read a lot of manga, so I used to definitely be a lot more into it in high school and college. Lately, my schedule is a little bit busy, so I haven't gotten to start a new series in a while. I love Clamp. Actually, I don't know if you know this, Skylar, but I had, I think it was last year, I did a piece that was inspired by Clamp's Clover, and it was inspired by the character of Sue. And I loved Clover. It was a very short, I think, manga, but I just loved the imagery from it, and I was very inspired by that character. I used to have like a picture folder with just a bunch of images from that one in particular. I also like Chobits. I was a big fan of Chobits, and I still need to watch the anime actually, because I somehow got my hands on like the 3rd disc or something, but I haven't watched the entire anime, but I've read the manga, so I really liked that one as well. Some of my other favorite mangas from when I was a teen, I liked the girly shoujo mangas, so that's probably going to give that away. One of my favorites was Mars. It was called Mars, and oh my god, that was definitely one of my favorite sagas. I was just like, I want Ray to be my real life boyfriend. I fantasized about that one a lot. That was a favorite of mine. I also loved this one called Marmalade Boy. That was also one I liked as well. A Peach Girl was a big one for me. Loved Peach Girl. I kind of related to Peach Girl because I always felt like, I was always like, so Peach Girl had this thing where she like would get more tan than she wanted to be, and people would like label her as like a beach bunny, and she'd get like a slutty reputation even though she wasn't one. Not that I had that, but I always got tan very easily, so I kind of liked that about her character. That one was one. I still have like a special place in my heart for all these mangas. Actually, they take up like my entire bookshelf, and I'm like, I know I've already read them, but I can't part with them because I might want to revisit them at some point. I reread the entire Mars saga probably like a year or two ago, and I'm like, oh my god, I forgot how good this is. It's like the best ever like soap opera. So yeah, so I do love any other ones you'd recommend to me. Please let me know. I need to catch up on some great manga because I know there's some really beautiful ones out there. What's your favorite Clamp? Maybe let me know what your favorite Clamp manga is, and I will seek that out. Okay, my next question today comes from Art Plague. Hello, repost from Paintalong 18. Okay, I'm sorry if I missed it before. Sometimes when I check the questions, I'll print them out or something, and then some of you guys will ask new questions, and so I'll sometimes miss them in between. So if I do miss your question, just repost it to me, and I will get to it. Okay, so Art Plague wants to know, are you ready for Mass Effect Andromeda? For me, it's 50-50. Knowing that I won't see FemShep in the crew makes me feel like not wanting to play the new Mass Effect. I feel like I'm betraying FemShep in the crew, but at the same time, I want to know the story and what's new in the game, and I have to move on. What are your expectations as worries about the game? Oh gosh, I feel like crying because of Mass Effect. New questions. How was it? Did you love it? Oh God. Okay, Art Plague. Well, you have opened up a can of worms. So again, I'm a huge Mass Effect fan. So if you guys are not into it, this sidebar probably won't be super interesting to you, and may contain some Mass Effect and or Mass Effect Andromeda spoilers. So if you want to skip over that, I will put a time link in here so you can skip to the next question or whatever, because I am gonna talk about this. So thank you, Art Plague. So I have finished it. I have finished Mass Effect Andromeda. I did not finish it at 100%, but I tore through the main plot and some of the side missions and loyalty missions. My main consensus is that I did not like it. I did not like it at all, actually. I forced myself to finish it, and it was basically kind of painful, actually. I will say, without going too deep into this, I knew pretty early on that the game was not going to meet my expectations. I played a female writer, so I played the female lead, and I just could tell rather quickly that I was not a fan of the way the dialogue was written. I felt disconnected from the characters. I felt like the story was some rehashings from the original trilogy. It didn't hold my attention. The bottom line for me was I was bored, actually. I wanted to just get it over with, and I felt that I should give it a fair chance simply because I am a huge, huge fan of Mass Effect. So I forced myself through it, and I did not enjoy playing it. I thought that they brought in a lot of things that were not part of the original trilogy that felt weird and forced. They brought in some like crafting mechanics. There was a lot of I was okay with it being more of an exploration game because I'm a huge fan of Bethesda games like Fallout and Skyrim. So I'm like, well, I guess they could. I wasn't too excited about it because I prefer Mass Effect as a linear story-driven game, but I'm like, okay, I'll keep an open mind. But honestly, I felt like there was not a lot to do. The planets were like enormous, but any side missions you have were not that rewarding and not that interesting. I also felt that in general, your decisions did not matter. And to me, that was maybe the biggest sin of all, is that Mass Effect is very decision driven, and you can actually shape and form your Shepard into a unique person based on how you respond to people, how you treat people, and the decisions you make. I felt that Andromeda had none of that, and that was very irritating to me, that no matter how I stopped caring, actually. I just would respond to people like all of the options were very neutral to me. Like in Mass Effect, okay, maybe it's a little one or the other. You can be an a-hole, or you can be nice, or you can be diplomatic, all right? But I like to play in between. I'm like a true Paragade, as they say. I don't ever play a full Paragon playthrough or a full Renegade playthrough just because I feel like that takes the whole fun out of it. I like making choices based on the different situations. That's part of the fun, and I bring some of myself into my Shepard. But I could not do that with Ryder. I was not connected to any of the crew members. If you liked it, I'm really sorry, because I'm like just totally hating on it, and I apologize. But this is just how I truly felt. The only one that I connected with maybe was sort of Drac, but basically Drac is Rex, so he's just a very, very close rehashing to Rex. I felt like most of the crew in general was just trying to be rehashes of the other characters. I was not a PB fan. I found PB super annoying. I thought Cora was boring. I thought Liam was boring. I ended up romancing Jal because I thought he was one of the only kind of interesting characters. But honestly, that romance scene was so weird that I was like making a face, like I was like making a cringe face, like I was like, no, and as many of you guys know, I'm a really, really huge Shikarian. I am a Garrus Vicarian lover. He's my husband, and it has nothing to do with the attractiveness of the character, whether they're an alien or not. And so that I romance scarce every single time I play Mass Effect. But it just feels like a really natural progression of your relationship, and you have like a chemistry with that character, and I felt none of that in Mass Effect Andromeda. I've had, so I'm part of a nerdy, like, Mass Effect group on Facebook, and I have had people tell me, like, try to convince me of why I didn't like Andromeda. They're like, well, you just wanted it to be like the original trilogy, or you were one of those people that hated the graphics or the glitches. And I'm like, I did not care about the graphics. A lot of people jumped on that early on and like made fun of the animations, and I'm like, it doesn't look great. I didn't think it looked as good as Mass Effect 2, but I did not care about that. I'm not a stickler for the look of a game. If the story's good, if it holds my attention, if the characters are interesting, I really don't care if it has glitches and stuff like that. That was not it. And it was definitely not anything visual, or it was honestly, it was the story and the dialogue, and that choices didn't matter. I didn't think. I laughed at inappropriate times while playing it. I was like, I don't think this is supposed to be funny, but it's like so goofy. Like, it's just so weird. So anyways, I'm not going to go on too much longer about this, because I know those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, like, I don't care. So if you want to know more about like pretty much exactly how I feel, I'm gonna direct you to my favorite game blogger by the name of Gamer MD, and she's right here on YouTube, and I'll put a link to her thoughts and videos on Mass Effect Andromeda. She's a huge fan of Mass Effect, probably even bigger than I am. I don't know, that's close though, because I am a big fan. And she did not even complete the game, and she did a really thorough analysis of why she just couldn't get into it, and I completely utterly agreed with every comment that she made. So if you want to hear a super in-depth analysis that I could do but won't do, because not all of you guys are here for that, I would check her out. I've also seen a few other, I also am a nerd and I watch game reviews after things like that, and I've seen a couple other good ones. There's another one, this guy right here, I'll put a link to. He also has a really great breakdown of what he thought failed about Mass Effect Andromeda, and I'm also on the same page as him. I'd love to know what you think, Art Plague, so write me back. If you loved it, I'm honestly glad that you did. I wish I had. I'm sad that I didn't. I was playing it and I'm like, it's not what I wanted. Oh. And it just kind of made me want to replay the originals again. So, I don't know. Whatever. I'll get over it. At first, I was just kind of like, I was disappointed, but I wasn't, my expectations were not that high. I don't know. It's a really tough act to follow. A Mass Effect is a pretty amazing gaming experience, and I had seen some of the, just kind of like how the developers were talking about the game, and I was like, I don't know, like they were kind of like rude to fans, like when fans would ask questions like at Comic-Con and stuff, and they're like, no, we're not bringing back any old characters, we're not doing any of that. It's like, okay, like what are you doing? Because it seems to me like you don't really care what the fans wanted, and if they had listened to their fans, they might have gotten something that we would have enjoyed more. I don't know, it didn't feel like Mass Effect to me. And honestly, whether it was Mass Effect or not, I think it would have been a failure as a game for me. I didn't like it. I thought like the characters and stuff in Fallout 4 were better written and had better dialogue, and they don't even have as much depth, really. I really love the characters in Fallout 4. So anyways, that's my long-winded answer to that. So thanks for bringing it up. We could talk more in some other venue or something, because I'll talk your ear off about it. I have a lot of thoughts on it. Yeah. So anyways, I am going to plug this in here though really quick, because I think it's worth seeing. This is like a 37-second clip of a Krogan fight scene in Mass Effect Andromeda. And even if you don't play Mass Effect, you'll probably laugh at this, because this is like how ridiculous some of the animations were, that these two guys like peed themselves and I peed myself watching this. So insert this as a final thought. This is my thoughts on Mass Effect Andromeda in a nutshell.
But now I've bested you, Morta, and Clan Knackmore will pay with blood.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
Grudge you carried across dark fate. You
Oh
will be
no.
part of Portland's mortal structure.
Oh no.
Get out. Take your goons with you. This weapon, hand it over. It's incredibly powerful. We'll use it to power the colony. This will put us ahead of the
Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I don't know what it is. Just like, even if you don't get the joke, like, those two guys laughing just, like, absolutely killed me. Okay, so if you were not listening to my Mass Effect rant, welcome back, and thanks for tolerating my gaming nerdiness. And you can all blame Art Plague for taking me on such a tangent. Okay, so finally, hopefully you guys, I'm not checking this that much, but hopefully I'm not mostly just filming the back of my head, and you're actually seeing what I'm doing here, because it's a little hard for me to tell. I'm trying to keep my big old noggin out of the camera, but bear with me. This is my first time. Is that too big? Oh, see, I love a beauty mark, but it's got to be, a beauty mark has got to be just the right size. I think that'll be okay. Otherwise it gets too moly. Moly. So maybe I'll take that down just a little bit. Sorry. She's like my child. Clean her face with a little bit of spit. Okay, one more time. Just a little bit smaller. There. Okay. So it's always a satisfying moment when I start to finally get the face on. I always think it looks so weird. It's kind of like for those of you guys that wear makeup, it's like when you just like have your foundation on and you don't have any eyebrows or anything. It's just such a weird stage, and you're like, oh, there's no way this is gonna look good when I'm done. Okay, I gotta make sure I get that right. The line between the lips is always super important, because it not only like completely can change their expression, but it also defines the shape of that upper lip, and I really want to give her like a full pouty lip, so I am going to be careful. Come on now. There we go. And I want her I spent a lot of time on the sketch stage of this one, because I really, hey, don't fall over on me. Jesus, this is important. I spent a lot of time on the sketch stage because I really wanted her to have a very specific expression. And it's just a little sassy, not too smiley, but I wanted her to definitely exude some of that kind of flirty look. And I definitely have it here in the sketch, so I'm hoping I can bring that back in a little bit, because once I do my transfer, I always lose a little bit of that. I mean, it just kind of happens. My guinea pig's crying over there. Mommy's trying to work. Just relax. I'll be with you shortly. And she has that cute little line there. At this point, I think I'm kind of trying to decide how much of the actual Borderlands look I want to bring into it, because they do like some kind of like heavy outlining, and I like that. I'm just trying to decide how much of that I want to do in my interpretation, because I don't do I do a little bit of outlining, but I don't rely on heavy outlining in my work. So it's one of those things. I don't want to make like a huge jump between my personal style. It's always kind of challenging when you have something that's already stylized, right? And you're like, well, I want to bring a bit of my style in, but I want to stay true to the character design and stuff. So this is always kind of an interesting challenge. This is kind of what I go through with Disney a lot of times, is like, how do I take their existing character and stay true to myself and true to them at the same time. So it's always a fun and difficult sometimes design challenge. Certain things are easier, like my guinea pig is acting up over there. He's going to get scolded. Certain things are easier, like live action stuff is much easier to interpret. So like my my Princess Leia piece, that one, since, you know, she's a real person, I didn't have to like think too much about the styling aspect. Okay, that nose line got super weird. I'm gonna take that off, actually. It looked fine in pencil, but when I started doing the black, it got a little bit strange. I hate noses. Honestly, I hate painting noses. Like, they're so weird to me. Like, just doing one thing slightly off and the whole thing looks super strange. That's why I kind of keep them subtle for the most part, but they have to at least kind of make sense. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of have to have, even if you're slightly even suggesting the nose, the placement of it is a huge thing. Like, I get super annoyed sometimes because I'm like, if a nose is like slightly too high or slightly too low, it can completely destroy like the attractiveness of the entire face. It's a very weird, it's like this weird dance I go through. And then of course, I mean, when you're doing like a likeness or something, the height of the nose can make a huge difference to depict what that actual person looks like. So then you want to like be wary of that. This is, you know, kind of like a cartoony looking character, so I don't really have to follow the rules so much. But yeah, that's something that always like always gets me, is the nose area. And I usually kind of just cheat it by just making like very slight suggestion of a nose by just even like a couple of lines. But this one's a little tricky because I've got her face on an angle, so I want to just make sure that is going to read right, even if it's subtle. I know I'm not really answering a question, I'm just kind of riffing here, but something that I often go through, and some of you guys will definitely relate to this as fellow artists, is you know, how much different do you want to do each new piece that you do? Because I already got, I think, a couple of comments, and they're like, this is so different than what you usually do. And I'm like, I never really know how to take that comment, because sometimes I feel like it's not really a compliment. It's just like, I don't know. Does anybody relate to that? Because I will have people sometimes like, oh, this doesn't look like you. That one I don't like as much. Like, doesn't look like you. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, why do us as artists have to do the same thing every time? And then I'll have the other comment, which is, you know, when I get on YouTube a lot, it was like, you do the same thing every time. It's all the same. And I'm like, well, Jesus, what do you want? Do you want me to do it different, or do you want me to do it the same? Because you can't seem to make everybody happy. So I just do whatever I feel like doing. And I was excited to do this piece. I did have the revelation recently, though, that like my last, I don't know, let's say like 5, maybe even 6 paintings I've done were all straight on angles, straight on portrait angles of like just kind of, I think even most of them were like centered too, like portrait center, right in the center. I don't know. I am attracted to that because I think it's often a very powerful and confrontational pose to have just like a dead center character that's like staring you right in the face. So I kind of like that. And I like the power that it can exude. Some of you guys know, I just recently finished my Wednesday Addams painting. There she is. You guys can see her. And I really like how this one turned out. And I wanted it very centered because I wanted to do a lot of these cool designy elements. And I just felt like I wanted her to be, feel confrontational in a way, because she's like an iconic, strong character. So I wanted that in this piece. But I've done a lot of pieces similar to this. So I do get when people are like, oh my God, you do the same thing every time. I was like, well, you know, that's what I like doing. I like having that certain amount of impact. But I think for this one, it works well. having a side profile because she's got that kind of like come hither look about her, and she's got that swoop of the hair that goes over one eye. So I feel it really works nice for this character. She's kind of like luring you in a little bit. So I think it's cool. Okay, anyways, what am I on about? I'm just kind of painting my happy eyelashes, which is one of my favorite things to paint. Okay, so back on track here. I have now a question from my beloved Trini Chops. Hey, Trini Chops, welcome back. Today she has a question for me, and she says, "Hi, it's been a while since I asked you something, but I wondered that if I wanted to get a tattoo of your work, specifically your Bride of Frankenstein, if I'd have to seek out any specific permissions. I know you've done tattoo design commissions, but I remember a while ago you announced you no longer taking commissions. Is there anything I would need? I love your work so much. I'm actually doing my current college project inspired by you." Oh, thank you so much. Great question. No, I don't require any specific permissions. It's always polite to be asked, but so yes, sure, thank you. Permission granted. I just always figure it's just a huge honor if anybody wants to get my work tattooed on them. So you have my blessing. All I ask for, I guess the only thing I ever ask for is when someone gets a tattoo of my work is if they'll send me a photo of it. Because I'd love to see how it turned out. You are correct. I'm not taking on any commissions at the moment. Just because I just simply have too many commitments that I'm involved in. I have several more shows this year, and I have a waiting list from people who have wanted a commission from me, and I've said, I'd be in touch, but I'm not actively seeking commissions just because I don't have time. And commissions are tricky. Like, I really only open them up if I kind of have some downtime. I've had wonderful experiences with commissions, but like for the most part, it's always easier if I just commissioning myself and making all those decisions. So I'll let you know if I open it up again. But if you're interested in my Bride of Frankenstein piece, your tattoo artist can customize it for you. So that's part of what they do as well. So if you want it slightly different, or if you want a moon behind her or whatever, your tattoo artist can usually adapt an existing artwork into a customized tattoo for you. So you might not need me to do that, especially if you like an existing piece. The tattoo commissions I have done were brand new designs. So they wanted something that wasn't already in existence. But if you want to use any of my existing work, just go for it. Take it to your tattoo artist. I might be able to help you if your tattoo artist needs like a higher resolution image or line art. I don't always have line art. Some of my pieces I do have line art, and sometimes that will help a tattoo artist. So if you're interested in a tattoo from me, just send me an email, and I will send you anything I can to help you with your tattoo. Just keep me posted if I can help. Okay, my next question today comes from Sky Hop. Hello! Now this is a serious question. Okay, serious face on. I just recently bought a print of Sunny, but I'm having such a hard time finding the right frame. I've had it for nearly a week now, but no frame seems right for her. Do you have any frame suggestions? That is interesting that you mentioned that, actually, because that was one that I had a hard time framing myself. I had a hard time choosing a frame for the original. I really like these kind of vintage, ornate looking frames. But that particular painting wasn't really that. She's kind of, she's a little bit different than some of my other work in that way, that she kind of has this like strong, I wanted her to have this sort of 60s, like spacey kind of feel. And it's not real feminine, I guess. So I don't know, something like foo-foo and ornate and curly-cued just did not seem right for her. So I'm going to show you, actually, here's a photo of the frame that I settled on for the original, and I was really super happy with it. It had these kind of nice, like, rust overtones. I actually felt like it felt a little bit industrial. I wanted something that felt a little bit like, a little bit mechanical, something with like that had a vibe of like it could be like rusty parts of a ship or something like that. So I got that frame from this website right there, and they do custom sizes. So you can get the exact same frame that I have and have them just cut it to the size you want. You can actually have them do a mat if you like. You can have the frame a little bit bigger so you can frame it bigger. So that's the source that I got it from. That's the link right there. And also I will put the title, the name of this frame. So hopefully they still carry it, because that might be perfect for you as well, because I was really, really happy with the look that gave my original, and my collector who bought the original also really liked that frame. So hopefully that helps a little cheat for you. I know what you mean though. I'm really like a stickler about my frames as well, and I will spend a lot of time choosing the right frame for a piece, because I really think it's an extension of the artwork. One of my FAQs, I will insert it right here because I feel like I know someone's going to ask in the comments, so I'm going to preemptively answer it, is I have, I get my frames from a lot of different sources. I don't really have just one. I look online. I do love Craig's Frames, which I just mentioned. They do really nice custom frames. They have lovely styles, lots of unique styles, and I can order those online. I really like those. I also will look for vintage frames sometimes from estate sales. Sometimes I'll sand them and repaint them. I have good luck at Aaron Brothers a lot of times, and sometimes Michael's, not usually. I've also found some really great ones at Hobby Lobby. If you guys have Hobby Lobby, I often find, so I will hoard up frames. If I see a frame, maybe it's Home Goods, I've found frames. I'm always on the lookout for something interesting. So that's where they come from. I also used to like Cheap Pete's, which is, I think they're only in San Francisco though. And I do work with some custom framers as well. I have a great framer in Fullerton, California called Picture This, and they do all my Disney framing, and they do exquisite frames, gorgeous, kind of expensive. They're definitely on the pricier side. They do custom frames for me for all my Disney works, so I've been super happy with them. But you can send stuff to them or contact them if you want something special. You just got to do a little bit of your own research though. Like keep an eye out for them, talk to local framing businesses and see what they cost. Depends on the size of the piece, of course. I'm already anticipating being a little bit unsure about how I want to frame this piece. I definitely will do black, I think. I don't know. Maybe something kind of vintagey. I don't know. I might have to hunt around a little bit though, because this piece kind of has a unique style to it. So something maybe kind of steampunky might be interesting. I don't know. I also wary on this side of caution. I never want a frame that's like too busy or gimmicky. It just has to be a nice extension of the art. There's something super satisfying I find about when you put your art in the frame and then you flip it over to see the final result, and you're like, oh my gosh, like really? Now it's a finished piece. It's pretty awesome. So I'm debating how I'm going to interpret this here. So she has, sorry. Leave me alone, husband. I'm working. I know you love me, but I'm busy. So anyways, so she has like, the character has these like painted cheeks, and they're like almost like perfectly round little like blush circles. And the cosplayers interpreted them softer, like they blended it in. And so I'm a little bit on the fence about how I want to do it. I think I kind of like that it looks like a hard circle in the original character, so that's how I have it right now. I may or may not soften that edge. I don't know yet, actually, because I kind of like staying true to how the original character has it. Plus, it's super hard to blend. But that's why I'm kind of hesitating about extending the lash all the way down there, because I haven't quite decided yet. This is funny, though, painting this character that she has. I mean, I've been doing this kind of eye makeup style on my girls for a long, long time. But maybe they ripped off my style. I don't know. But it is kind of interesting that this character has like the drippy mascara. I mean, I guess it's not like that original, but I feel like when I looked at this character, I was like, hey, man, they stole that. That's totally like my look. So anyways, I'm stealing it back, and I'm doing my own interpretation of this character, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. I kind of felt like, so this was interesting because I was talking to my husband about this, and one of my most popular prints and selling images of all time is my Mad Hatter painting. And I felt, while I have a soft spot for it in my heart, of course, and I think it does work in its own right. I just feel like, I'm going to, put like a side-by-side up of, I just feel like I've come a really long way with my painting ability and my style. And I mean, I'm proud to see it. I'm glad people still enjoy this piece, but I really wanted to do a little bit of kind of like a draw this again with this painting, because it's just a little bit similar of a subject matter. So I am kind of thinking of this in a way of like, how do I show my current style and skill set with a very similar subject matter? So yeah, so let me know what you guys think. I do think I can see a pretty dramatic difference, actually, which is cool. I love seeing it. And I know I always have some people that leave comments and like, I like your older work. And I'm like, that's great. But embrace what I do now, too, because it's all part of the process and you guys can be along for the ride. I don't want to get stuck in a rut, and I don't want to always do the same thing again. And I encourage you guys to feel the same. I know many of us have a lot of pressure to brand ourselves, to decide who you are as an artist, but who you are as an artist is always going to be changing and growing. And like I've said to you guys before, I've said to my students, like, all the famous artists went through periods of doing slightly different work, and that's totally fine. And I think you should. I never would want to be the type of artist that I have to do the same exact painting all the time. I'm lucky enough to do what I like doing, so I don't really feel like, I mean, sometimes I repeat myself. Of course I do. We all do. It's like the other day, actually, I think it was this piece. Yeah, I was sketching it out and I'm like, have I done that hand pose, like that exact same hand pose before? I feel like I was like, it's really similar to like, I don't know. So then I was like looking through my own pieces and I could not find what I was thinking of, but I was like, I just don't want to do like the exact same pose that I've done before and then have someone clock me on it and be like, did you just copy your own painting? And I'm like, I probably did, because it's like all deep in my head, and sometimes I like can't even remember if it actually came out of my head or not. Anyways, I'm rambling on. Okay, next, let's see if I have some more questions. Oh no, I'm trying to read this on here. Okay, my next question comes from Tamara Faye. I love painting surrealism, mainly focusing on animals and children and making it look very fairy tale-ish. But to paint that takes a very long time, and even though people say they love my work, I'm not selling anything. I'm in a financial place where I'm pretty desperate for money, aren't we all? My parents think I should do abstract, which people seem to like, and sell them, as I can potentially sell them cheaper and do them faster. But I don't love painting that. Would you change your subject matter and style to get by financially and put your own stuff on the back burner or for later maybe? Is it wrong or just adapting to get by? Oh, wow. Tamara, that's a really fantastic question. I'm surprised that we haven't talked about this before. That's a tough call. I have certainly done work that was not my favorite thing to do. I think that let me give the short answer is I do not think it's wrong at all. I think adapting to get by is something that we all have to deal with. And I think that it's necessary and you shouldn't feel guilty about it. I think that if you can find something that you do get some enjoyment out of, that would be preferable. If you really hate doing abstracts, I would not do those for money. In fact, I still don't think that could be the greatest avenue. If I were you, my suggestion to you would be do something that's does not take so much creative energy. If it's in the creative field, that'd be better. But if you have any Photoshop knowledge, you can take some retouching work. Sometimes those jobs pay pretty well if you're willing to just do some kind of simple Photoshop cleanup type work. Something like that that's not going to like drain you financially, but actually give you some money. That's good. You could work in an art store part-time and get discounts on art supplies. At least you have an income coming in, something that you can count on that may help in another avenue. I am lucky enough to have sort of found a balance between this, because this is always adapting and changing, and I don't know any professional artist that doesn't have to do this. I teach as part of my supplemental income, but I really enjoy teaching. So for me, it's kind of a win-win, because I like video editing, I like filming, I like talking on camera, I like working with young artists, and I like that part of it. So I'm very lucky in that way that I don't have to really do what would we call it, drudge through work that I hate doing. I have, though. I definitely have. I took early on when I was just starting out. Sorry, I'm looking for one of my paint containers that seems to have wandered off. Is this you? When I was just starting out of art school, I took a lot of commissions for pet portraiture, because apparently there was quite a bit of work in pet portraiture, and I will tell you that I hated it. I absolutely hated every minute of it, and that's why I do not do commissions, and I definitely don't do pet portraiture, because I found out that people are really sticklers about their animals' likenesses. And this one particular woman that I worked with, hopefully she doesn't still watch my videos, I don't know if she'd even know that. She just like really gave me a hard time, and I was charging nothing. I was charging far less than like even a minimum wage, basically. And she just was like, that does not look like Snowball or whatever. That does not look like him. And I'm like, oh my God. I literally took a photo of their dog and I all but like painted over it verbatim, or as best as I could, because it was not really my forte. I was not really like, I don't know. I wasn't trained in painting animals. I didn't really, occasionally I like doing animals, but on my own terms and stylizing them somewhat. So that one I took what I could, because I wanted to paint and I wanted to make art and I wanted to get paid for it, and they weren't paying me to do my own thing at that point. So I think it does often come with the process. But again, there are other ways that you can earn a living if you have a creative background. I had an artist friend who actually worked in merchandising, and she was a designer at like a sock company. So she did like little patterns and textile designs for socks as her day job. And then at night she made her own art. So, look into other creative jobs that you might be able to do, because hey, unfortunately money is a real thing and we all need it to get by. But if you can find something that's not overly soul crushing and draining to supplement your income, then that's ideal. I wouldn't, like I said, I'm not sure if doing or I'm not sure if doing abstracts is even really going to earn you that much. I mean, those are, I don't know, maybe, I don't know what your abstracts looks like. Maybe they're freaking awesome. I'm sure they are, but still you're not going to be making that much. There's a lot of competition for that. People can go to, Bed Bath & Beyond and pick up a nice abstract for $30. So anyways, my point is, if you're going to do something you don't like, you might as well make a little bit more money doing it. So if you're going to do something you don't like anyway, don't do another job you don't like that doesn't pay well. I would also look into, I'm not super familiar with like children's book illustrators and stuff, but you might want to put your portfolio out there on some kind of like book illustrations or illustrations for cards. Send out your portfolio. If you like doing like fairies and fantasy stuff, a lot of times they hire people. So you might look into doing more like illustrative work where you get paid instead of just trying to sell your fine art, if that makes sense. I would say I'm very lucky to have sort of wiggled myself into the predicament I'm in. But selling your paintings and your fine art to make a living is probably one of the hardest, maybe the hardest avenue as earning a living being an artist. There's not that many people that say, well, I sell my paintings and prints for a living. Most of us are chameleons, or somewhere in between, but of the artists I know, many of them are freelancers, so they're work for hire. So they actually do art for different purposes, not just whatever they want to do. And that's just kind of the fact of it. It takes a really long time to make your own brand, and it doesn't mean you can't do both at the same time. So if you're doing freelance work, I mean, you can still be doing what you want to do, when you're not doing that. I mean, that is when it gets hard. I'm not going to lie. It gets very hard. I had 2 jobs at some points, and I took a lot of weird odds and ends commission type jobs. I was taking anything I could get when I was first starting out. And then I was painting on YouTube at night. And I was just like, I'm going to figure one of these things is going to work for me. I did a lot of research into companies that might hire me. I looked into greeting cards, and I just kept doing that at the same time. So hopefully that helps you. I know this is a tricky thing, because we're all just trying to figure out how to survive in the world. And if we're able to do some kind of art as a job, that's definitely the ideal. So just keep researching. Think about, maybe make some lists, like, what would I be willing to do? What would I absolutely not do? I mean, that might be helpful as well. My next question today comes from Anthony C. Does Art. I was better than a lot of my peers at art when I was younger, which was different than you. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess it was. You were one of those people. You're one of those kids I hated, Anthony. Anyways, were you always trying to improve after starting taking drawing seriously? If not, at what age? I feel really guilty when I hear someone else wasn't as good when they were younger, and I was wondering if it was because I practiced a lot and tried to improve. Like I said, I was drawing all the time, so I don't know that you were, quote, better than me or better than other students because you practiced more. Maybe you were drawing from life more. I was mainly focusing on drawing cartoon characters that I liked. So, I mean, I wasn't really learning foundations by drawing Sailor Moon. So no, maybe if you were practicing in a more classical technique, you got better at drawing realism faster. I don't know. I mean, I can't really answer that. There's people that just, their brains work in a different way. Maybe you are able to, interpret references easier, or you have a better memory. I mean, like I say, why are some people better at sports? It's not necessarily, some of it's practice, of course it is, but some of it's just natural. Some of it's just natural talent. I do think that plays into it, but I don't think that it's a determiner of your success. I think people, like I said, I do art professionally, and I was not anything extraordinary in school. In fact, I was somewhat, I think, below average as far as artistic talent. But like I said, my drive was more, I had more drive than a lot of other students. So I figured I could make that up if I just kept putting in the time. And I have. So I don't know what you're doing now. I mean, maybe fill us in. Are you still a student? Because like I said, also, I mean, my husband was more like you. I think he was very naturally inclined. He just, it sort of, I won't say it came easy to him. I don't really know that. I don't, if it came easy to you, Anthony, let us fill us in. maybe it didn't. And maybe you were also very driven and you put a lot of time and effort into practicing and improving. So that's why you were better. I think that people who find success ultimately are ones that were willing to put in the effort, no matter what it is. So I think it applies to what we do as well. And I don't think I'm better than anybody else. The only person I truly try to outdo is myself, because that is the only person that really matters. I'm not going to outdo, there's other artists in my field who I've even had the pleasure of having my art hanging next to them, but I'm never going to be as good as them, and that's okay, because it doesn't matter, because if I'm sharing a wall with them, then obviously I'm on an equal playing field. So to me, that's success. I'm doing the best I can with what I have, if that makes sense. So it's an interesting question. I mean, I think we can talk about this more, but I think there's more of us that it didn't come easily to. I think there's more of us that just want to continue to grow and do the best we can for our own selves. I always encourage you guys to try not to compare yourselves to others as much as you can. I know it's often very difficult, and sometimes I wonder, like, oh my gosh, does it come more easily to other artists that I look up to? But I honestly don't think it does. And the amazing thing about social media is that you can kind of share that and be more open about it. And I love to see that other artists are very candid and open about their struggles. I saw, I really look up to this artist named Kelsey Beckett, and if she ever watches this, then I will be gushing like a fangirl, but I just really, really love her art. I wish I had some of her painting skills. But she said something on Twitter recently, and she's just like, I'm just really down on myself. I'm struggling. I'm just having a hard time with this piece. And I was just like, oh, it makes me feel better knowing that someone I admire and who I think it comes easily to, it doesn't. She has her own struggles too, and I'm sure she's been through a lot to get her work to where it is. So we should always remember that and respect it, and not be envious and jealous, because I'm sure she has her dark days just like anyone else. I think that's true for most people. I mean, you look at celebrities and you're like, oh my gosh, they have a perfect life, mine sucks or whatever. But it's usually not the case. Everybody has their own issues. So anyway, that's kind of a roundabout question, a roundabout answer to your question, but it's always a topic of discussion in the artist life, right? Okay, my next question comes from Instagram, and this is one from TJ Triton. Hey, Art Queen, what's good? That's my favorite opening to a question ever. I was wondering if you could help me, since obviously you have so much free time. Oh, I know. I am. I'm here for you. I'm here. I've been out of art school for some time, and I'm working intensely at home with jumpstarting my art career. However, I also work full-time as a grocery supervisor. Sorry, I can't speak. Which, in honesty, sucks major. Did you ever deal with this situation, and for how long? Love your work. Hashtag OG fan. Awesome. Okay. Well, interestingly enough, we were kind of talking about this earlier, right? And I am here to support you. You have all my internet emotional support that I can send your way, because I definitely relate to this. And I was in a very similar situation, as I said earlier. I finished art school and I really had no idea what the next step was. Because nobody told me, and nobody really tells you. I just kind of took odd jobs as I could get them. So I was an office manager for a business brokerage firm. That was really interesting. And basically, I just got ordered around by old men stuck in the 60s and was told to make coffee, even though that wasn't in my job description. And then I had a second job where I worked for a mental health office. I was also an office manager there. So I had some different kind of experiences. And then at night, I painted on YouTube, like I said. So I did that for about 2 years. And I was, like I said, I got a few odd art commissions for pet portraits and things like that that I didn't really enjoy doing. And I was just like, okay. And I began selling a few things on Etsy through my YouTube videos. So that did start to happen for me somewhat quickly, which was really nice. And I did talk about this a little bit before, that I feel like, I mean, you guys can tell me, because I've kind of been on YouTube for a long time now, so I'm not sure how it really is for some of you guys just starting out here. But when I started YouTube in 2009, like I said, there wasn't like a whole lot of YouTube artists, so I felt like I kind of got in early. And I got quite a few views. I was also kind of doing cosplay videos, so I drudged up a bit of action through that as well, which was nice. And I was kind of like, I was doing some Lady Gaga tribute art, which was real popular then, and I got quite a few views from that. But yeah, so I did start to sell some paintings. At that point, I was living in a house with a bunch of roommates. My rent was very high in San Francisco, and I was just having a hard time making it, basically. So my parents and I had like the conversation, like, okay, so where are we going? You know, what do you want to do next? And they knew I was working really hard. I was really doing everything I could to do it on my own. I was very determined. I wanted to. And I didn't want to give up. And my mom basically offered, she's like, okay, well, we're going to make you an offer. And if you want to come move back home for, you know, a few months, let's say, and just really focus on just making art, and we're going to sign up for all the little like arts and crafts shows that we can. And we're just going to see if we can launch you, basically. So my parents were super supportive, and I agreed, somewhat begrudgingly. I was settled in San Francisco. I was happy there, and I didn't really want to leave. But at the same time, it was important to me, and I was really starting to enjoy the video aspect. So I was like, I'm just going to focus on videos and painting and see what happens. And we started going to my mom and I, and my dad. We got some tables and some setup stuff, and we just started to go to every local craft fair that would have me, basically, and I would bring some little original paintings, and we got a few not very great prints done online, and I had a few little things to sell, and I went out to these art shows, and I just kept doing it, and then I kept doing my videos in conjunction, and honestly, the rest is kind of history. It started to pick up, and I started getting more and more sales, to the point where I had to invest in a printer to keep up with the print sales. So I started doing my own printing, and that really helped me kind of catapult me forward as well. And I did do a few more odd illustration jobs in there, and I lived at home for 2 years. It might have been a little over 2 years. So for 2 more years, I did just art. And I did pay my parents a little bit of rent. You know, they thought it was good for me to contribute something, which I did. And at that point, I was making, well, let's see, I was making enough that I could contribute to rent elsewhere. So I was making in maybe like the couple thousand, so not a lot, but I was making enough that I was like, okay, I think I'm brave enough to go out on my own. And at that point, my then boyfriend Brian and I really want to live together, and I was like, well, I'm making money to contribute to rent. So then I moved back to the Bay Area, and I moved in with him, and I was doing art full time, and I began to grow from there, and I began to do better and better. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight on my journey. I do think I had some luck involved. I had some very lucky encounters with, I made some very good collectors early on. I found a few people online that really liked my work. I sold some larger originals, and I started kind of building up a fan base online. And yeah, and I have not stopped, and I've never looked back, and I've definitely had not so great times. I still occasionally have times where I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, I don't know if this is the right direction, and I need to adapt again. But I'm accepting that that's part of it, and I don't rule it as a failure if I have a tough month or if I don't sell anything for that month. Yeah, so anyways, be prepared to really put in the hard work. I will say that. It's not an easy path. If it was an easy path, more people would do it, I think. And I have had plenty of family friends, and they go, how do you possibly make a living doing that? And I'm like, well, by working my butt off 24 hours a day and not taking a lot of time to do much else. And that's something that I've committed to, and I'm happy. And for the most part, I'm like, I get to do what I freaking love every day. Sometimes I hate what I love. Sometimes I hate what I do. But yeah, so anyways, a roundabout answer for you. I think that's all I have time for today. So I'm going to leave it at that for today. This might be a slightly shorter episode. I'm sorry if it is. I don't think I had that many questions that I could track down. So ask me more questions, and we'll talk some more on a new paint along very, very soon. I did see a couple of comments. They were just like, I think they were on YouTube, and someone was like, oh, I wish you would paint the Dark Crystal, or I wish you would paint Storm from X-Men. And I had a bunch of like, please paint this requests. And I'll start by saying my pins are falling off. I'll start by saying I don't take requests. I think you guys know that. There's absolutely no way on earth that I could meet all the requests. And right now I'm not taking commissions either. So I'm sorry, but hope is not lost, because I do give a great amount of power and responsibility to my Patreon subscribers. So if you'd like to get in on my patron-only polls, where I ask them to vote on themes, and they get to pick the next piece of art that I do, and they get prints in the mail, plus coloring contests, plus extra videos, instructional videos, and all that good stuff, please support me over on Patreon at patreon.com/LeilaniJoy. Even $1 is amazing, because it really helps me continue to do what I love doing. I guess I didn't mention that earlier when we were talking about adapting and making a living as an artist, but Patreon is a really great place to kind of support your art and support your craft. So I support other artists that I love what they do, and I have gotten a lot of, I recently, if he watches this, I just want to send out a huge nerdy fangirl thank you to Jeremiah Kentner, aka Small and Round, who is one of my Patreon subscribers, and I really, really love his art. I have one of his pins on my apron right here, and I have been a follower and collector of his art for many years, so it's a huge honor to have one of my favorite artists actually support me as well. So it's a really great place. I hope you guys will check me out over there on Patreon. I have some other great stuff coming up this week. I am releasing prints of my Wednesday Addams piece, and I'm going to have limited edition canvas reproductions. The original sold so fast that I feel bad that no one else really had a chance, but I was like 50% into the painting, and one of my amazing collectors, Riley, is already her new owner, who bought it halfway done. Basically, she's like, I want this so bad. So I did sell it in progress. So if I am willing to take requests, if you want to buy a piece that's in progress, let me know. If you're interested in MOXXI, you will have to buy her through Gristle Art Gallery, which will be the info down there. They are going to have an event page for the opening. So if you live in Brooklyn or New York and you'd like to attend, I won't be at the opening, sadly, because it's just too far for me to travel right now. But you can keep track of all the artwork from the show. You can contact them to purchase and get all the information about the gallery show right there. So I guess that is it for me on this episode. I hope you guys had fun, and be sure to ask me some new questions in the comments below with hashtag AskLJ. Show me what you worked on today with hashtag LeilaniLook, and I will check that out on Instagram if I can. I really try to see what you guys have been working on because it means a lot to me to have you with me and to make art with me. Okay, guys, well, I will see you next time, and keep creating.